Well, here we are in Woodburn, Oregon, and I'm here with my good friend and fellow Vietnam vet, Gary Hunt. Gary,
John,
50 years.
Big John, 50 years.
50 years ago,
Yeah.
we served together in Vietnam, and Gary was our company clerk while I was in Vietnam. And it's just such a pleasure after all these years to be able to actually sit down with you and see that you've weathered the storm so well. I mean, you're in great shape and look good and so forth. So where I'm going to start is I'm just going to ask you, where were you born and raised?
I was born in Portland, Oregon. I was raised here for a few years, and then I moved to Montana, and I was predominantly raised in Montana.
In Great Falls.
Mm-hmm.
Now, was your dad in the military? Was he at Maelstrom or anything?
No.
What took you guys to Great Falls?
He worked at a brewery in Great Falls.
Oh, okay.
And there used to be a Great Falls Select Brewery.
Yes.
And he worked there, and he had a long time employment there. So.
Okay. Now, tell me a little bit about your childhood. What was it like growing up in Great Falls?
Well, from memory, I say our winters were pretty rough, and of course we all went to school, and I had lots of friends all around me, and we just did normal things that all kids did, and went through grade school into high school.
Any brothers or sisters?
I have 3 sisters.
Okay, and where do you fit in on the age scale?
Second from the last,
okay.
Second from the youngest.
And what are your sisters' names?
There's the eldest is Cynthia, and then next is Kathy, and then myself, and then Diane.
Okay, and are they in Montana, any of them?
No, they're all here.
Oh, okay, good.
Right.
Oh, that's awesome.
All here in two in Portland and one's in Salem.
Okay, and then do you have any grandkids?
I do. I have 2.
Okay,
Two grandkids.
And are they around here as well?
They are.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I have a granddaughter that's 13. She lives in Hubbard, which you don't know anything about, and then a grandson, which is 7 or 9 now. He lives in Happy Valley.
Okay, good. Now, tell me, did you volunteer or were you drafted into the Army?
I volunteered.
And where were you at the time that you did that?
I was in Portland, and when I entered the service, I was stationed in Germany.
Okay, let me back up just a second. How old were you when you joined?
Oh, brother.
I guess what I'm getting at, were you in college, or did you do any college before that? Or?
No, I was working at the time.
So you were probably just a 19-year-old kid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like most of us, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the guys actually went to college, and then when they lost their college deferment, they got drafted. Yeah, they got drafted.
I volunteered. I enrolled.
Okay. And what was your thinking there? Did you just want to?
I needed a change. I felt like I was going nowhere.
Okay.
Just bumping into friends and getting into trouble at times.
Yep.
So I thought I'd join.
And then where did you take your basic?
In Washington.
Fort Lewis?
Fort Lewis.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And can you describe to me just a little bit about your first experience when you got on the fort? Mm-hmm. Did they bus you? Were you
We were bussed in.
And
mm-hmm.
then you went and they stopped and they opened the doors
mm-hmm.
and they said, "Get off the bus."
Mm-hmm.
Take it from there. What was it like?
Well, it was just, you're just kind of drained because you're all by yourself. You're with people, but it was quite an experience. A welcomed one. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
Was it a shock to you when the DIs were yelling and screaming at guys and?
Sort of. I was kind of prepared for it.
Okay.
I had a good recruiting officer that told me all about this.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
So I remember specifically, I was at Fort Ord.
And at that time, I needed some discipline in my life. So,
yeah.
So it was good.
And I was at Fort Ord, California. Of course, mm-hmm. That's where I took basic and AIT. But I remember there were a whole bunch of guys with long hair. Mm-hmm. And I was told by a couple of guys that you'd do yourself a favor if you'd get a haircut before you went. Mm-hmm. In other words, not like a scalp job, but
Right,
you know,
right.
at least have,
Get rid of the long hair.
yeah,
Mhm.
and which I did.
Mhm.
And so, but these guys with the long hair, when they got put in the barber's chair, I'll never forget it as long as I live.
Mhm.
Some of those guys actually cried, you know, and the hair was just flying all over the place.
Wow.
Now, did you have long hair when you went into
No.
the? Okay,
No.
that came later.
We came out of Montana. We didn't have long hair.
Yeah, that's true. and where was your recruiter? Where did you join up?
Falls.
Oh, so it was right there.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mhm.
good. And when you were in basic, was it did everybody there kind of feel like we're going to Vietnam?
Not necessarily, but there's some that were drafted. They knew they were going, so there was some interaction there. I didn't know I would be going there. I pretty much knew I was going to Germany.
Let me ask you this: what month did you join?
I don't remember that.
It would have been about 2 months before you got to Vietnam.
No, because I went to
No, it would have been 4
about
months.
4 months.
Yeah, 4 months.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think you and I probably went in about almost the same month.
About the same time.
I think so. Yeah. And what did your family think about you going in the army?
They were all for it.
They were, so
No
no
problem
kickback on that.
No.
Okay, and when at the end of basic, everybody gets around and they start calling out names and MOSs.
Mm-hmm.
What did MOS did you pull at that time?
I was the company clerk.
I mean,
go ahead.
do you remember the MOS?
No, I don't.
Okay,
No.
so but when you joined up, the recruiter put you in.
Oh yes, let me think about that, because it seems to me that I was in artillery at the time. As when the rockets first come out, I kind of was intrigued with those. So that was my MOS, but I never did see any of it.
Oh wow.
So
Okay, so and I think if I'm not mistaken, if you joined, you had a good chance of getting the school that you wanted, and that was the case here. Okay, now where
when
did
you
you?
were drafted? You didn't.
Okay, so you got your MOS. Where did you go next for training?
I went to Oklahoma.
Fort Sill.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, which is a big artillery base, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about what did they call it? Did they call it like I went to advanced infantry training?
Mm-hmm.
What did they call?
I think it was the same.
Okay.
I think it was exactly the same, because I was leaning towards rocket-propelled artillery, I guess you'd call it. And so that was kind of an interest for me.
Yeah. What was the training like?
Well, it was a little bit of field work, not a lot. Mostly it was just disciplinary. So,
And then were you learning like how to shoot these weapons?
no, we were learning about them is about it.
Okay.
Not taking over anything, but what they were, I think it was a sergeant missile actually. And that's about all I can remember of that.
Okay. So then when you were done at AIT, you got some time off to probably go home for...
And then I went to Germany.
Okay. And your orders then were for Germany. Tell me about that. What was that like?
To get there?
Yeah.
It was great. I really liked Germany. Schwäbisch Hall is where I was. I don't even know if you could find it on a map anymore. But I enjoyed that. And then I was there for a year and a half maybe.
And what did you do?
I was the company clerk.
Oh, so you were clerking even then. Okay, okay.
And so the opportunity arose for Vietnam. So I put my name in the hat for company clerk, and I got it.
And what was your thinking about going to Vietnam?
Well, at the time I wanted to get some college education, and I knew if I went to Vietnam I would get an early out of the Army and I could get, what was that?
GI Bill?
GI Bill.
Interesting, okay.
That was my goal.
Yeah. Had you talked to anybody in Germany that had come back from Vietnam?
No.
So you didn't have any preconceived
Not a bit.
notions?
Not a bit. I just
Okay.
wanted to help, and the GI Bill was very interesting to me.
When did you get to Vietnam?
The month?
Mm-hmm.
I don't recall.
68 or 69?
It was 68.
Okay.
I don't know the month.
So probably towards the end, I would
It
guess.
was close to November, December.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
Okay. And when you flew into Vietnam from Germany and you landed,
Mm-hmm.
was that on a commercial airliner or a military?
It was commercial.
Okay. And they stopped and they opened the door and you left the door. What was your impression?
Boom! I got hit by that wave of heat. And that pretty stunned us right there.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Once I got used to that and got off the plane, it was okay.
Now, when you went to Vietnam, you didn't know where you were going at that point,
Not a
did
bit.
Yeah.
No.
So you went to Long Ben
Mm-hmm.
to the
Mm-hmm.
I call it the reception station. I'm not
Mhm.
sure if that's the correct term or not.
Mm-hmm.
But then you probably waited around like I did and had to go to the bleachers and wait for your name to be
Mm-hmm.
called and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, you're sitting there going, well, I could go anywhere in Vietnam. You had no clue.
No.
And then when they called your name and said, you're going to the 25th,
Mm-hmm.
the Wolfhounds, it probably didn't mean anything to you.
Well, it didn't, because I thought, again, I'm thinking of the Sergeant Missile. I'm thinking, well, they must have a missile base out there. So, lo and behold, they did not.
Yeah. Did they have any missiles in
They
Vietnam?
wanted my MO is what they wanted. They wanted the company clerk.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So did we have any missiles in Vietnam?
Not a bit.
I didn't think so.
No.
Yeah.
Not a bit.
So there's one guy in Vietnam trained to do missiles, and there's no missiles.
And no missiles. But I was trained for the company.
Oh, I know. I'm
Yeah.
just teasing.
Yeah.
But so you get the deal, and they say you're going to Charlie Company.
Well, I didn't know Charlie Company at first. It
Just
was
the 25th.
Infantry.
So how did you get to Cu Chi?
Well, I landed in, what was that name of that town that you just mentioned when we landed?
Long Ben.
Long Ben. When we got there, it took us forever to find the right place to go. Nobody was very helpful, and to make a long story short, I did find the right area, so they told me I was going to 25th Infantry in Cu Chi, and I said, in Cu what? Cu Chi, so we had a long train ride, and there we were.
And then what was your impression when you first got to Cu Chi and you went to the company area? Who did you first meet, or what was your first experiences?
I don't remember who I first met.
Okay.
I really don't. I remember there was another gentleman with me, another guy, and we wandered around till we saw the logo for 25th Infantry Company C. So must be where we go. So I walked in there, and
It was the big Quonset hut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny looking thing.
Yeah, big
us.
Quonset hut. Yep.
So we walked in there, and I think it was the first sergeant.
And was that Dombrowski at the time when you first got there?
I don't remember. It was the first sergeant that I talked to.
Yeah.
And he said, well, it's about goddamn time.
Yeah. So he knew somebody was coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and then did you go to supply and get gear, and did they issue you a weapon, and and so you went through the whole
Went through the whole thing.
all the whole works. Okay. When you were in Cu Chi in that company area or whatever doing your job, did you have a weapon accessible to you, or was
I had a couple weapons, a handgun, a grenade launcher, all next to my bed.
Oh, okay. And so when you lived in Cu Chi, you had hooches, like they were buildings with screens halfway up, and then boards or sandbags or something from the way down.
Exactly.
And cots, right? Yeah, so you slept on it.
And a refrigerator full of beer.
And how big was your area?
It was probably 10 by 10.
So was there more than one guy in
Yeah,
there?
there was 3 or 4 of us.
Okay, okay.
Charlie was in there.
Okay. Do you remember, like, first off, when you first got there, did they say, okay, you're going to go be over, did they say you're going to be in that area over there?
Yeah, you're in that hut. There's two beds. Take your pick.
Okay.
So,
okay. And so Charlie was there. Do you remember anybody else?
yeah, they got Hacker.
Okay, Charlie. And then how about Wayne Lee?
Yeah.
He was probably in there.
He was in there.
Yeah. Do you remember Jim Calvert, the supply sergeant?
Basically.
Yeah. So, tell me about your first week in Vietnam.
Stacks of paper I had to go through.
And what, as a company clerk, you know, it's funny because you handled every single person's paper at one time or another.
Except for the officers.
Yeah, so names, I'm assuming, you...
yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of names, lots of people.
Yeah.
It's a bigger unit than I thought would be there.
Yeah.
Because I've been in a little place like this.
Sure.
Not realizing there's a couple hundred of you out there in the field.
Yeah. Who else was in the company Quonset hut besides the company clerk?
Just me. And, well, the lieutenant was in there, but he was in a different room.
Was the first sergeant?
And he was there too.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure where he was sitting. He'd come in and out all the time. He was a busy man.
Okay. And then, was there more than one company clerk, or were you it?
That was it.
So, when they showed you this...
Well, I'll take that back, because there was company A, B, and C.
Right.
And I was C, so there's three.
Oh, so they were housed in this...
Yes.
Okay.
So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's three of us.
Okay.
But we were all in different areas.
So, what was that big stack of stuff? What was it that you had to do with that? What kind of work was company clerking?
Well, you had to keep track of who each person that was in our company, you know, where they're at in the field, how much time they got, their entry date, their exit date, their R&Rs, their everyday roll call.
Morning reports?
Mm-hmm, morning reports.
Okay.
And what is a morning report? What is that?
Well, it's kind of hard to remember, but seems to me like I can remember whether you were present or not, what time the meeting was, or what time the roll call was, and who was there and who wasn't, and if they weren't, where were they? That kind of thing.
And so if a guy wasn't there and he should have been, he could get in real trouble for that.
Most likely, yeah. Most likely.
Yeah, it's like a roll call. You got to know who's where.
Where and if they're available.
Yep. So if, like, when we were out at
And the people in the field, excuse me, would send that information to me, and then I would log it.
Oh yeah.
In a sheet of some sort. So everybody was accounted for every day. So,
Do you remember Crockett Fire Support Base?
no.
That was where I was at when I first got there.
Okay.
And it was not very far from Cu Chi. It was a little fire support base that they had out there. And
Eventually I did, but not at the time.
oh yeah. And so if we were low in strength, like when I walked into the second platoon, there was only 8 guys in the platoon.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any handling of replacements, or
No. That was all the first sergeant and the officer.
Okay, so you didn't touch.
No.
You didn't
It
have
came
any.
from above, and then once whoever was selected, say it was you, then your paperwork would come to me. And
Okay.
I would enter it.
And then the first sergeant would say, "This guy's going to second platoon. This guy's going to third." Okay, I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
So, and of course, I'm assuming they put guys where the most need. You know,
That'd be a good assumption.
where the most need was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember in Cu Chi there was sometimes you guys would get mortared and rockets and all that stuff. Do you remember the very first time you experienced anything like that?
I do.
What? Tell us a little bit about that.
The closest call, they come into the complex, actually, into the yard, and they were firing rockets at us. Of course, we had a bunker built right next to our building, and we dash in there. Right, we just got in there as a rocket hit our hut, and somebody had turned the light on. You're not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
Somebody turned the light on, and that You know, that's just inviting a rocket.
It was a target.
Yeah.
So when you say a rocket, probably an RPG.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But did you ever get any mortars in? You guys used to get mortared at Coochie too, didn't
Yeah,
you?
but not where we were.
Okay.
They were mostly after the helicopters. And
The pad.
The pad. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So what was your feeling like? Was this this was at night? I'm assuming, right? So did you have your weapon?
No. We ran out of there, and then I thought, where the hell's my gun? Where's my weapon? Well,
So that
it's
must
too late now.
that must have been kind of a
Somebody had a 45 in there. Somebody brought a pistol with them. So we had, at least we had a weapon in there for
Yeah.
sure.
And could you hear any activity, or was
We
there?
could hear the talking, the Vietnamese talking back and forth, and rockets being fired. I don't know who turned the light on, but that cost us our little hut. So we,
So what pretty scary night.
well, yeah, it didn't last very long. Our guys kind of come out and kicked them out of there.
Did they kill any of those guys?
I don't know. I don't know.
Did they rebuild the hut?
Yeah, it wasn't completely shot, but yeah.
Now, you said that you went out into the field.
Mhm.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, the first sergeant wanted company clerks to go out at least once every other week, 2 or 3 weeks, just to meet the people and get acquainted and put names, you know, faces to names, and so I went out quite often with supply.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, that truck used to come out,
Mhm.
and I remember that
Mhm.
because Hack'd come once in a while, and then you'd be there, and they'd bring out laundry, and they'd bring out remember those sundry packs, and
Sea
that
rations.
and yeah, and all that kind of stuff, and beer and pop. So, do you remember that every guy got 2 beers or 2 Cokes? Not both, but at that time.
Yeah, that's a funny story because we got more than 2.
Oh well, yeah.
We had our own refrigerator.
Yeah. So where would you get that beer from?
I'm not sure, to be honest with
You didn't have to go and buy it
No,
from.
no. It was all supplied.
Yeah. Jim Calvert was the supply guy. He's the one. He's the one that got us
You
beer.
okay.
So I'm assuming he's the one that got you guys beer as
You
well.
must have, yeah. Blue Ribbon, I think, was maybe Olympia or something.
It seems to me that Schlitz was one because I
Well,
remember.
surprisingly enough, though, as the big old army tough guys out there, we didn't drink it very much. We probably drank pop more than beer.
Yeah, I didn't. I wasn't a beer drinker myself, so I would trade, beer for Cokes and so forth. So, but yeah, that was quite a deal. Did you take an R&R?
I did.
Where did you go?
I went to Australia.
Okay. Now that has nothing to do with.
Can you turn that off for a second?
You bet. Yep.
Actually, I went twice.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
Well, you were there for a whole year, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So, and I got 2 R&Rs.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I
I got-
only got one.
I got-
So you
well-
turn it back.
Oh.
No, I did, and I think it was because I'd just been there so long, and one came down, and you probably felt sorry for me or something. I don't know, but I got a chance, and of course I took it. So
Where did you go?
Hong Kong,
Hong Kong, yeah.
yeah, and that was what I'm assuming there was a lot of those. Bangkok, I think a lot of guys went there. There was another place they were sending them, like
I can't think of that either.
but it was another.
I went to Sydney.
Yeah. Well, tell us about that.
That was fun. That was great. The weather was perfect. People are real friendly. They liked Americans there.
Did you have any money?
Probably. Not
You
very
know,
much.
some of the guys in the interviews will talk about how they went on R&R and they were broke.
Yeah.
And so one guy, all he had money for was the hotel for the week, and he bought a big salami thing.
That was. Do you remember Larry Lemire?
Sure.
That was him.
Wow.
He said, I get no money, so he goes, I bought a big piece of salami and just
How
ate it
funny.
and walked around.
How fun.
And just enjoyed life,
I don't recall the money being an issue. I don't know how I would got it, but
Yeah. Now, did you send your money home?
Perks of company clerk.
Did you send your money home?
I did.
I think a lot of guys did. Because what are you going to spend money on in Vietnam?
I did it automatically. Just automatically.
I did too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we got money somewhere, from somewhere, somehow.
Yeah.
Maybe only sent a partial of it or something.
Do you remember in the Army they'd pay on payday? Did they do that in Vietnam? How did guys get paid?
I'm not sure, because there was most of the guys were out in the field, so you probably know more than
I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember that either.
But I do remember I sent like 90% of it home,
Yeah,
and then
if I was to guess, without, this is not true by any stretch of the imagination, I would say that they just got a piece of paper saying this is what you got.
Yeah, I've still got some of those, as a matter of fact.
Yeah,
when I got to Vietnam, I think I was making $98 a month. When I got to Vietnam, yeah, that was.
You were upper echelon.
And then there was combat pay on top of that. I think that was $25 or something.
I had like 67 a month or something.
Oh my God!
What was the rank? Were you?
I was an E5.
E5. So right off the bat, you were E5. Wow.
Yeah.
In Germany, were you an E5? Okay. So you went in as an NCO, which is good, So when guys would get promoted, were you involved in all the paperwork?
Just the paperwork, yeah.
Okay. And so how did the communication come down to you that somebody was up for?
Sergeant.
Oh, so were they making the decisions?
Well, I'm not exactly sure.
I mean, battalion was.
I just got the information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I remember when I got there, I was a E3, and then I got spec 4. I was there, I think, 3 months.
Where were you in the E series?
What's that?
Where were you in the E series? E4, E5, instead of a specialist or?
Oh, I got specialist 4 when
Okay.
that was my E4,
Okay.
and then I got buck sergeant, which was 3 stripes,
Okay.
and so I left Vietnam as a buck sergeant.
What's a buck sergeant?
Well, it's just as opposed to a staff sergeant or a specialist 5,
Do you remember me being there?
Who?
Me.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. You saved my bacon.
I heard that.
Tell that story. Tell that.
Well, like I said, I went on R&R to Hong Kong, and I was not in a very good spot, and I'd come off of some really bad operations and so forth, where we lost a lot of guys and so forth, and when I got to Hong Kong, I just decided I wasn't going to go back, and so I made the decision that I was not going to go back to Vietnam. I couldn't, and yet my thought process was I wasn't really thinking ahead, because where was I going to go? At that time, at the end of that first week, I had no money, and I had nowhere to go, and I couldn't. Where could I go? And all I had was a return ticket to Saigon. And so after I think I was AWOL 4 or 5 days, I finally bit the bullet and said, well, I got to go face the music. And so when I went back and I got to the company area, you had to go into the Quonset hut and check in and tell them you were back. And when I went in there, you looked at me and you started chewing me out, because you said that I could have got you in real big trouble, because you had put me down as on the morning report the day I was supposed to be back. So you absolutely saved me from. Well, if I'd have been AWOL, you know what they did with guys that were AWOL.
Sure.
I mean, number one, you get busted,
Demoted.
and you could go to long bin. If they so chose. I mean, that's a pretty serious. In a combat zone, AWOL doesn't work very well.
No.
So
that was nice.
So you did. You saved me on that. You bet you did.
Right.
And but I remember that, because I was ready. I mean, I thought I was going to walk in there, and I thought I was going to be arrested.
Did you see that with other guys, Gary? Did you have other guys that like John here, that had some difficulties that they were working out, and you just kind of carried them along, or did you remember?
No, I did not. I did not carry anybody except him.
Yeah. Do you remember why? Did you know?
Well, I think we hit it off.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We were. Yeah.
Now, did you, I know this is off of...
I think you might have said something before you left even, that you're not doing well.
Yeah, I was in a pretty bad spot.
Yeah.
Did you see guys when they would come offline as they were getting ready to leave? Would you interact with them after? And so did you see John when he came offline?
Most likely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there were the thing that you got to remember too is there were so many guys that got killed and wounded that didn't last very long. I mean, we had guys that got killed in the first week. I mean, so the turnover was, well, you know, hell, you were doing the paperwork. And that's another subject. Do you remember any of the guys that you knew that got killed or wounded?
You know, I do. I don't remember by name, but I remember the feeling that I had when we lost.
What was that?
It was just a shock, you know, that this is real, this is not bullshit.
Did you have to do paperwork? And what was that? What, if a guy was deceased, what was
well,
that?
There was a form to fill out is all, but most of that stuff came from the first sergeant and then the company commander.
Like when we, like you remember Diamond Fire Support Base when we really got our asses handed to us. There were, just in the second platoon alone, I think there was 8 killed. So what was the feeling back in Cu Chi I mean, when you knew
it was
that
devastation, but as far as the paperwork goes, John, I'm not so sure that I did the paperwork. I think the first sergeant did. No.
But you guys felt it.
Oh, sure.
I mean, you guys...
Sure. We virtually knew everybody out there.
Yeah,
After a while, it took a while for me.
Yeah.
But you know about everybody out there because eventually you come in and out. And
Oh yeah, absolutely. What would you say your worst day in Vietnam was?
My worst day? Oh my goodness.
Or night, or what event took place that you would consider to be maybe one of the worst ones?
Probably when we got attacked.
Yeah.
Was one of them. And another time when we went into Cu Chi to pick up some laundry.
Outside the wire. What did they call that little town down there?
I called it Cu Chi, but I...
Little Cu Chi or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We went to pick up some laundry, and who was our supply clerk again?
Jim Calvert.
Calvert. Walked in there, and he had like a grenade launcher with him. He set it down on the counter, and to pick up his laundry, get his laundry, do paperwork, whatever it is. Little kid come out and grabbed that thing and pointed at him, and he hadn't loaded it.
A little kid did?
Yeah, a little
No
kid,
way.
like about 10. Yeah, he grabbed that thing, aimed it right at his head, and pulled the trigger, and then dropped it and ran. But Calvert didn't load it that day. No.
Dear God.
Yeah.
Did they chase the kid down?
Well, no.
He was
He
gone.
was gone.
God.
We ran around. You know, there was a little partition there.
Yeah.
He was long gone. I
Man.
wonder if Culvert he'll remember that.
Yeah.
He never said that in his interview.
Yeah.
We interviewed him last year. He didn't bring that up.
He probably blocked it out.
So, you never got wounded. Did you get any citations or any awards or anything like that? Okay. When did you leave Vietnam?
The month?
Yeah. Would have been October
I was going to say October.
of '69. Yeah. And do you remember what it was like when you got on that plane and it took off? What was your feeling?
To be honest with you, I felt like I'm letting some people down because I'm leaving, and I've controlled all this stuff in the office all this time, and I felt sad.
Who was your replacement?
I don't remember.
You didn't train anybody? So it was back to the old...
Back out, in with the new.
And here's the stack.
By the time I got there, you get a stack like this every day, and you know, after about 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
You know.
Do you remember, did Dombrowski leave before you did? And was he replaced?
I think so.
You don't remember who the first sergeant was though? Okay. If I said the name Farmer, a black guy, Sergeant John Farmer,
Boy.
first sergeant, he followed Dombrowski, and he was a black
Okay.
first sergeant. Doesn't ring a bell.
Not
Okay.
at all.
So you get home,
Mhm.
and I think you mentioned earlier that the folks knew you were coming home.
I gave him a call when I landed in PDX, Portland, and my dad refused to come get me. He was against the Vietnam War. His own son. He refused to come and get me, and followed my mom, Horston. Because she couldn't drive.
What was that? I mean,
I didn't know that until a week after that.
you didn't know your dad was against the Vietnam War?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting that he kind of held that grudge against you
Yeah.
because you served, you know,
Yeah.
because you were over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you said he ended up coming to get you, right?
Yeah.
Reluctantly.
Reluctantly, yes.
So what was it like homecoming?
I thought it was great. It was nice to be back home. And I like Portland.
Did your mom bake a cake? Or did they
Yeah,
have a
she
little?
had a cake.
They had a little party.
Did they do a special
Party.
meal or
A
anything?
party, yeah.
Yeah.
I think Dad went to bed. He's probably drunk.
When you came back to the States, did you have any time left to serve?
No.
So you were done.
That was it. Yeah.
Okay. So what did you do directly after getting home?
Well, I just relaxed for a little bit, and then I went to school under the GI Bill.
And what was your course of study?
It was general at first. I was interested in management,
Okay.
but I stayed with general, and that was it.
What did you then? What kind of a job did you pursue?
After that, let me think about that. I think I just worked in the assembly line, so I was trying to get my feet back grounded, and that's when I went down to San Diego.
Oh, okay.
And I went down there and stayed there.
Okay. And the next question I have is did you ever get married and have a family?
Of course.
And tell us a little bit about how that came about.
Well, I met my wife in San Diego, and we had 2 kids, a girl and a boy,
And their names?
Melissa and Jason.
And how old are they now?
That's a good question. Sue?
But they're
They're in their
40s,
40s,
or yeah. And
I think Melissa's 44, I think Jason's 40.
and you got some grandkids.
Got 2 grandkids.
Okay, great.
Mhm.
And what was it like in San Diego when were you married in San Diego, or did you get married later?
No, we got married later.
You met in San Diego.
We met
but
in
didn't
San Diego and moved to Northern California.
Oh yeah, that's right. Up Redding. Yeah, Redding.
East of Redding.
And Mount Shasta, wasn't that a beautiful?
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, Mount Shasta's beautiful up there.
We had a cabin up in the woods.
Oh, you did? Okay. And so then you started your family and so forth. What were you doing for a living up there?
I was working for PG&E,
Which is a lumber...
Pacific Gas and Electric.
Oh, electric company. Okay. And was that...
Construction.
Did that turn out to be a career or just a...
It's just a fill-in.
Okay.
It made good money though.
Yeah. What did you end up... What's your longest employment? I mean, did you have a job where you consider it to be a career like you...
Yeah, once we moved up here, I worked for the State of Oregon Highway Division.
Oh, okay. Tell me a little bit about
I
that.
worked there for 32 years.
What did you do?
I was a clerk.
Really?
Yeah, I was a company.
Oh, I'll be darned.
Yeah.
So your training really...
I was a permit specialist / clerk.
I'll be darned. That's interesting. When you got home, did you stay in touch with any of the guys that you served with?
No.
Did you...
It wasn't a lack of not wanting to, I just didn't know how to contact them.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
The sad part about our service is we went over alone and we came home alone.
Yeah.
I mean,
Pretty much,
and
and
what-
everybody's scattered everywhere.
and not a lot of people talked about it much either.
Right.
You know, it was, we didn't get a very good welcome, you know, home like of course they do today. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to look right in, which camera is his, right over here? And I would like to have you answer this question for me.
Okay.
What does your wife mean to you?
She means everything to me. She means absolutely everything.
And she's hung in there with you this whole time.
She's put up with me for all these years.
What is your definition of a hero?
A hero would be somebody that contributes positively and comes home alive. No,
Okay. And what does the American flag mean to you?
it means everything to me as well.
Okay.
It's our base.
Would you say that you were proud of your service?
Absolutely.
Good.
Yes.
Now, you've got grandkids,
Mm-hmm.
and they're going to have kids, and this is a generational thing. If I can get the funding, I'm going to have this up on our website for 100 years. And the reason I'm doing that is kind of like the Ancestry.com deal. There's going to be generations that are going to be interested in what their great-great-grandfather was all about,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll be able to actually see you in living color,
Mm-hmm.
talking about your life and your service. What advice would you give to those future generations?
Stay honest. Stay out of drugs. Go to school and get an education.
Good advice.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that we have missed as far as your life that's important or your service that's important that I haven't talked about?
Just, no, not really. I think we've covered everything. There's a couple people in Vietnam I'd like to know more about that were around me at that base.
Can you come up with
Well, the two you've mentioned.
Wayne Lee,
Mm-hmm.
and of course Charlie Hacker,
Charlie Hacker.
and Jim Calvert?
Not so much Jim, but those two. We interacted quite a bit daily,
Oh yeah,
and I'm kind of curious about them, how they're doing.
yeah. And they're on the website. Is Wayne Lee up?
Yes,
yeah.
he is. And
Is Hacker up?
I think Hacker is too.
So their interviews are already up. Have you seen any of the interviews?
No, none of them. No.
Oh, we gotta get you
Plugged in.
plugged in.
Yeah.
And
I'm not real good with computers, so.
yeah, well, this won't be difficult at all.
Okay.
Dude, I was going to ask, when you came home, some of the guys, they had pretty strict rules about you can't bring anything home, but guys tried to.
Yeah.
Did you being in the position? Did you get to bring anything home?
I did.
What did you bring
I
home?
brought a cute little pot home.
Ah, you didn't.
I did. I shipped it.
Is
to
that a
myself.
brick?
You shipped it to
No, is that
it to
I
yourself,
shipped it to myself. Yeah.
and nobody checked it.
Nobody checked
Oh, you know what?
it. What I did is I put some film in there, and I wrote on the box, "Do not X-ray. It's undeveloped film."
Yeah.
And I shipped
And there was a guy in our platoon, Rudy Deanda.
Mhm.
Do you remember
it.
Rudy?
I do. Mm-hmm.
And Rudy would get the cracker tins that saltines came in,
Mm-hmm.
and he would just stuff that, just cram it as full as he could, put the lid on and tape it, and then he'd wrap it up and send it home.
Yeah.
And he did that a lot.
I only did it once, and I took a kilo, and I wrapped it with carbon paper, which you can't X-ray through. And I threw a bunch of empty film containers in there, and I put a stamp on it. Do not X-ray undeveloped film.
Interesting.
Did you smoke it or sell it when you got it
I
home?
smoked it. Yeah.
Now, did you smoke a little marijuana in Vietnam too?
Yeah.
What made you do that? What gave you the?
Well, I did too. I'll take that back.
I was gonna say,
I did too.
here.
I did too. Out in the field, actually, in the bunkers. I
Okay,
smoked- I
yeah.
smoked some. And the Vietnamese pot was pretty powerful.
It was uncut, and there was a lot of buds in
A
those.
lot of it, yeah.
Now, that brought up another thought. Because you were in Cu Chi, did you have to take your turn on bunker duty out there on the perimeter?
No.
Who did they get? Who was doing the?
Everybody but me.
Oh, so you didn't have to do it.
No.
How's that?
I just didn't do it. Wasn't asked to.
Oh, okay. But now a lot of guys, like when we would come in, you know, for a 3-day stand down.
You guys would have to do that.
We had to, yeah, we had to do it. And that's, and of all the
Well, I think the first sergeant learned his lesson by waiting so long to bring another company clerk in, where that paper was that deep, and he could not even breathe until he got somebody in there, and I think he was afraid of losing the next one.
oh my
So
gosh.
he just left me alone.
Yeah, yeah. And especially if you were doing good.
Yeah.
I mean, you
I knew
know.
what to do. I've already been doing it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
knew more about it than he did.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. That's generally the way it went.
yeah.
Now, Teach, or Dave Kelly, he was a
I don't remember Teach. I don't remember.
high school teacher, and then he got drafted or whatever. And of course, he could type 80 words a minute and so forth. Well, he was infantry, 2nd platoon. He got gored by a water buffalo on the Fukong Bridge,
Ouch.
and Willie Williams shot the buffalo, and the bullet went through the buffalo and into Dave's leg.
Oh, for Christ.
And so they bring him back, and after they got him out of the hospital, he was hanging around waiting, you know, he was healing, so he was hanging out in the Quonset hut. And the first sergeant, whoever it was, said, just made the comment, does anybody in here know how to type? And Teach raised his hand and said, yeah, I can type. And he goes, well, go over there to that desk and that typewriter, and I'm going to tell you some stuff, and you type.
Yeah, he timed him. Yeah.
And you type it. And of course, he was just
Burning it up.
and the guy goes, you've just got a different job. You ain't going back out to the field. And that's how he became the company clerk.
Perfect.
So he learned it, I'm assuming, just from the get-go. But Teach was a pretty smart guy, you know. I mean,
I was not a fast typer, so that was not part of the deal. What part of the deal was is I knew more about the forms than he did.
yeah.
I knew more about how to fill them out.
And
In
which
fact,
box
I
had
showed
to.
him how to fill
So
them out.
he worked with Teach then. You worked with him.
No, I'm talking about the first sergeant.
First sergeant.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of had him right here. 'Cause-
Yeah. Well, he was reliant.
Yeah, yeah.
So what are you doing now? Are you?
I'm retired.
You're retired.
I am retired.
And so what is, you know, you've got this lovely property
We've got
and,
an acre, we've got 5 ewes and a ram, sheep, we take care of those, and we got, I think, 40 chickens, laying hens.
so you're getting eggs. Do you sell the eggs? Okay, and then what about the sheep? What are you doing with them?
That pretty much Sue takes care of them, and we
Do you share 'em?
Share them, we use the wool, and we don't eat them.
So that's a hobby, it's a hobby farm, I guess, for a lack of a better term. And then you said you do pasture and plant and all that kind of stuff.
Reseed and plant and fertilize.
What kind of grasses are you planting?
Just field grass.
Oh, just a regular
Yeah.
kind of a mixture of stuff. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, like I do very similar to you. I have a tractor. I've got a fruit orchard. I've got all kinds of stuff that I do, and that to me is like peace. I mean, it's like I'm good with the world. Nothing better than to be out on the tractor. I mean, is that sort of the way you are too?
Pretty much.
Yeah, when you're.
I've got a thing going out here. We have moles out here. Quite a few of them.
Yeah.
And everybody around here traps them, poisons them, this and that. I take their soil. When they build these mounds, I take their soil and we transplant it over to the garden. We fill in low areas, fill in planter boxes. I use the soil, pump them up, I take the dirt.
Interesting.
Leave them alone.
Yeah. And moles, you'll never get them anyway.
No.
I mean, your neighbors can spend the rest 50 years and
Yeah.
the moles are not going to be gone.
They'll be gone when they want to be gone. Well, you can trap them, you can do all that kind of stuff, but there's too many of them.
Do you remember a guy that we called Moose in the 2nd platoon? His name was Bob Molenhauer.
I remember Mullen. Well, I remember the name. Of course, I knew everybody's name.
Yeah. So he lives in Minnesota.
Okay.
And him and my buddy Russ Bruns. Russ lives in Ulm, Montana, right next to Great Falls there. But they got hurt really bad in a firefight and they got RPG'd and the stuff went in their eyes.
Mm.
And luckily both of them have one eye that they saved. But he lives in Minnesota and he has been fighting moles ever since he's been there.
Yeah.
And you can plow the whole lawn, turn it, everything.
Boop, they come right back.
You can, and then he put those traps in there where the thing would go, you know, they'd trap the trap and then the spring-loaded thing would go down.
Never got one.
It just, I mean, you can't get them. You just can't get them.
One thing moles do not like is vibration.
Mm.
So if you stand out there with something that vibrates a lot, they'll move.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Huh.
they don't like vibration.
Well, Gary, I can't tell you how
Yeah, it was such a pleasure to see you.
Oh,
guys.
but